Unveiling the Asymmetrical Path to Notarial Mastery, Treasury Banking Decoded. Introduction. In the vast expanse of financial jurisprudence and notarial practices, there lies a unique, often uncharted territory, Treasury banking. This treatise seeks to illuminate the nuances of Treasury banking, emphasizing the strategic use of Social Security Administration resources to achieve fiscal self-determination. Embarking on the notarial voyage of Treasury banking. The cornerstone, Social Security accounts. To set sail on this odyssey of fiscal self-reliance, one must first grasp the foundational tenets. At the heart of this journey are Social Security accounts, which transcend mere retirement provisions. These accounts symbolize individual financial repositories, with ownership vested in the account holder, not the issuing entity. Recognizing this distinction is pivotal to harnessing the true might of these accounts. The Treasury Bank Routing and Account Codex. To decode the enigma of Treasury banking, one must familiarize oneself with its operational mechanics. This involves mastering two vital codes: the Treasury Bank Routing Cipher, your Social Security number, and the Commercial Lien Main Account Code, typically your surname, followed by your given and middle names. The Direct Express Charter. A key instrument in the notarial arsenal for maximizing the benefits of Treasury banking is the Direct Express Charter. This charter bridges the chasm between public fiduciary duties and private financial prerogatives. While its accessibility is limited, beneficiaries can wield this tool, empowering them to commandeer their resources in the private domain. The Notarial Blueprint Revealed. Instruments of Commitment. In the realm of notarial transactions, traditional modes of payment, such as checks or cash, are rendered obsolete. Instead, one can draft a notarial instrument, anchored by your Social Security account. This instrument, in essence, disperses resources from your repository, marking it as a formidable tool in fiscal dealings. Temporal Prudence. While the notarial path offers unparalleled empowerment, it demands judicious patience. Instruments may necessitate up to a triad of banking days for comprehensive processing. This temporal span is attributed to the oversight of the Social Security Administration and the Treasury Directorate, safeguarding the transaction's integrity and adherence. Ledger entries and restitutions. On this fiscal pilgrimage, it's paramount to discern that most corporate entities leverage resources from your repositories to fuel their endeavors. Engaging in fiscal transactions essentially taps into your pre-allocated repositories. As a result, one can invoke restitutions for expenditures, as it mirrors the submission of a fiscal ledger for resources previously allocated. Conclusion. Deciphering and mastering the art of Treasury banking can herald a renaissance in fiscal autonomy. By delving deep into the intricacies of Social Security accounts, notarial instruments, and the Direct Express Charter, individuals can chart a course to steer their fiscal fate. This voyage demands rigorous education, patience, and astute strategizing, but the dividends in terms of fiscal mastery are unparalleled. As one traverses this multifaceted terrain, it's imperative to remember that the unveiling the asymmetrical path to notarial mastery, Treasury banking decoded. Introduction. In the vast expanse of financial jurisprudence and notarial practices, there lies a unique, often uncharted territory, Treasury banking. This treatise seeks to illuminate the nuances of Treasury banking, uncovering the facts. Introduction. In this article, we delve into the truth about income tax, shedding light on its origins, legal implications, and misconceptions. We will explore historical court cases, legal opinions, and the role of the Internal Revenue Service, IRS, in enforcing tax laws. By examining relevant statutes and documents, we aim to provide a comprehensive understanding of income tax and its applicability to different individuals. Part 1: Federal Employees and Compensation Contracts. ## Unilateral changes to employment contracts. Federal employees hold a unique position when it comes to income tax. A critical aspect is the contractual agreement between the federal government and its employees regarding compensation. Section 86 of the Internal Revenue Code identifies a particular provision known as a kickback. This kickback involves a portion of the employee's compensation being withheld as a form of taxation. However, it is essential to note that this unilateral change to the employment contract, initiated by Congress, raises legal questions. The withholding of a 3% compensation tax without the consent of federal employees is seen as a violation of their rights. This action was challenged by federal judges who refused to pay this duty until 1932, making them the earliest recorded tax protesters in American history. #The Fifth Amendment and Due Process. The judges' refusal to comply with the compensation tax was rooted in their understanding of its implications. They recognized that the arrangement for withholding a tax on federal government employees' compensation violated their property rights and liberty, thereby contravening the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution. This refusal by judges set a precedent that showcased the importance of due process and protection of individual rights. Part 2, Supreme Court Justice Tenney's Letter. Constitutional questions raised. In 1863, Supreme Court Justice Tenney sent a letter to the Secretary of Treasury, challenging the implementation of Section 86 as unconstitutional. This letter was published as a Supreme Court decision under 157 United States Statute 701. Justice Tenney highlighted that the act, as interpreted, diminished the compensation of federal judges by 3%, disguising it as a tax. He expressed concerns that if such diminishment could be justified as a tax, it could potentially be further reduced at the whim of legislators. This correspondence emphasized that judges understood the true nature of the law, a forced debt obligation rather than a legitimate tax. Moreover, it affirmed the principle that individuals cannot be compelled to accept a debt against their will, aligning with the judge's decision to refuse the tax. Attorney General's opinion. In 1869, a question arose regarding the constitutionality of imposing this tax on officers already in office when the statute was enacted. The Attorney General was asked to provide an opinion on the matter, leading to an elaborate response. The Attorney General advised the Secretary of Treasury that no income tax could be lawfully assessed and collected from those officers who were in office at the time of the statute's passing. This opinion, published in Volume 13 of the Attorney General's Opinions, page 161, has been followed consistently by the department overseeing the collection of public revenue. It confirmed that the imposition of the income tax on federal government employees violated their rights and was not legally permissible. Part 3, The Evolution of Income Tax. Blurring of acts and improper enforcement. The illegitimate imposition of a 3% debt obligation on federal government employees through the kickback program in the 1860s and the subsequent employment agreement kickback established the groundwork for today's income tax. However, it is important to distinguish these acts from the provisions of the 16th Amendment and Social Security provisions of the 1930s. Unfortunately, the IRS has intentionally mingled these provisions, causing confusion and enabling improper enforcement procedures. The result is the so-called income tax, enforced through coercive and intimidating methods that infringe upon the rights of law-abiding American citizens. Many individuals are being pursued for a tax they legally never owed in the first place. Conclusion: exploring voluntary compliance and privacy. The IRS emphasizes voluntary compliance in the nation's tax system, as expressed by the current Commissioner, Margaret Richardson. This concept raises questions about the nature of income tax and the rights of sovereign American citizens. If compliance is truly voluntary, it challenges the IRS's aggressive enforcement tactics and their legal basis. Additionally, the Privacy Act and the Paperwork Reduction Act Notice 609 play a significant role in ensuring taxpayers' rights. These acts require the IRS to inform individuals of their legal rights, the purpose of collecting information, and the consequences of noncompliance. By understanding these acts and their implications, taxpayers can navigate the tax system more effectively and protect their privacy. By examining historical context, legal opinions, and the actions of federal employees and judges, it becomes clear that income tax is a complex issue with significant implications for individual rights. It is essential for citizens to understand their rights, seek proper legal counsel, and stay informed to ensure fair treatment and just enforcement of tax laws. Understanding the legal basis of income tax filing requirements. Introduction. In this article, we explore the legal basis of income tax filing requirements in the United States. We delve into the specific code sections mentioned by the Internal Revenue Service, IRS, in their notice, which outlines their right to request information from taxpayers. By analyzing these code sections, we aim to understand the concept of liability, who is subject to income tax, and the legal limitations that govern filing requirements. Part 1, Internal Revenue Code Section 6001 and 6011. ###The purpose of code sections. The IRS notice refers to Internal Revenue Code Section 6001 and 6011 as the legal basis for their right to request information. However, it is important to understand the true intent of these sections and how they relate to liability and filing requirements. Section 6001, Notice and Regulations Requiring Records and Statements. Section 6001 outlines the obligation of every person liable for any tax imposed by the Internal Revenue Code to maintain records, render statements, and make returns. However, it is crucial to note that this section does not establish liability, it simply describes the consequences of being liable. The code leaves the reader to assume liability exists elsewhere. Section 6011, General Requirements of Return Statements or Lists. Section 6011 further emphasizes the obligation to file a return or statement when required by regulations prescribed by the Secretary of the Treasury. Again, it is important to recognize that this section does not explicitly establish liability. It only lists the consequences of being made liable, leaving the reader to assume that liability exists elsewhere in the code. Part 2, Exploring the code section's limitations. To better understand the specific requirements and limitations established by the code sections mentioned in the IRS notice, we need to examine the relevant statutes. Section 6012, Persons required to make returns of income. Section 6012 identifies individuals who are required to file returns of income. However, it is crucial to note that this section refers to individuals under Subtitle A of the Internal Revenue Code, which deals with income taxes. The limitations and legal nature of the requirements established by this section need further examination. Understanding the structural organization of the Internal Revenue Code. To gain a comprehensive understanding of income tax filing requirements, it is essential to grasp the organizational structure of the Internal Revenue Code. Title 26 of the United States Code encompasses the tax laws of the country and is divided into various subtitles, each dealing with different aspects of taxation. For instance, Subtitle A covers income taxes, Chapter 1 to Chapter 6. Subtitle B addresses estate and gift taxes, Chapter 11 to Chapter 13. Conclusion: Unraveling income tax filing requirements. In summary, understanding income tax filing requirements and the legal basis behind them requires a careful examination of relevant code sections. While Sections 6001 and 6011 outline the consequences of being liable, they do not establish liability itself. Section 6012 pertains to individuals under Subtitle A, and further exploration is needed to determine the exact legal limitations and requirements it entails. By unraveling the complexities of income tax laws and their legal foundations, individuals can navigate their tax obligations more effectively. Seeking proper legal counsel and staying informed about their rights and responsibilities will help taxpayers ensure compliance.
Into the intricacies of the legal world. I'm your host, a seasoned legal professional with 2 decades of experience in the Federal Reserve Banks of New York and Cleveland. Today, we're going to discuss a critical aspect of financial transactions, the implementation and protection of an Article 9 security interest and how it intertwines with trust administration. Let's start by understanding the nature of a transaction. In a typical scenario, a plaintiff extends its own credit, also known as money of account. However, the defendants are obligated to repay in money of exchange, specifically lawful money. This discrepancy potentially indicates an inequality of obligations on the two sides of the transaction, raising questions about fairness and equity. Now, let's delve into the argument that the plaintiff did not lend any of its own pre-existing money, credit, or assets as consideration to purchase the note or credit agreement from the defendants. Instead, the plaintiff recorded the note or credit application as a loan from the defendants to the plaintiff. This essentially implies that the plaintiff became the borrower of an equivalent amount of money of account from the defendants, reversing the traditional roles in a lending transaction. In conclusion, the plaintiff is utilizing the defendant's note for its own purposes. The inclusion of the lawful money language in the repayment clause of the note can be confusing and potentially misleading. This could lead to a misunderstanding of the actual nature and obligations of the transaction. Now, let's shift gears and talk about the importance of protecting an Article 9 security interest. This process involves identifying the collateral, creating a security agreement, giving value, filing a financing statement, maintaining perfection, and enforcing the security interest. Each step is crucial in ensuring that the lender's rights are protected in the event of a default. In the context of trust administration, the trustee must ensure that any security interests held by the trust are properly perfected and enforced. This includes monitoring the collateral, ensuring the debtor doesn't dispose of the collateral, and renewing the financing statement before it expires. This not only protects the trust's assets but also maintains the integrity of the financial system as a whole. That's all for today's episode of Legal Insights. Remember, it's always recommended to consult with a legal professional when dealing with legal matters such as implementing and protecting a security interest. Tune in next time as we continue to explore the fascinating world of law. Until then, stay informed and stay safe.
All right. Hopefully you guys can hear me. Hopefully everybody's coming in loud and clear. Hopefully I am. If I am, please place inside the chat that you can hear me. So that way I know that my audio is coming in the way it's supposed to and nobody will miss any of the stuff that we're putting out. Good deal. I got the thumbs up. A little bit of trustee training. I'm not going to hold everybody up on their Saturday. I know some folks are still out there in the public watching football games and all that good stuff. And so who am I to interrupt that algorithm? Basically just was interested in seeing who wanted to get some training in because there are a lot of things that's going on. Even though I technically, Monday through Thursday is when I'm usually, hard and heavy. My international family kicks in usually after Thursday. And so I'm doing a lot of stuff internally with my family office during that time. But I do make myself accessible so everybody can kind of get what they need. Like the infamous song, I forget the singers that sung it. You say you got to give the people what they want. And so what I try to do is give everybody what they want in that regard. But there's a lot of information that a lot of folks are starting to come to a realization with. And just to kind of let you know, in this particular training, I'm going to go over a certain particular aspect of subject matter. I am looking for specific questions. I'm looking for a level of retention. I don't want to entertain a lot of things publicly that become public controversies that have no place in what we do. I know we have to deal with it because there's a lot of perceptions. So basically to keep you safe and to keep me safe and to keep the content where it needs to be, your solution is always going to be in the aspect of accounting. The reason why a lot of folks don't understand is because they're not applying methods of accounting to a formal solution. How can you even ascertain a solution in commerce when you're not using accounting principles to bring that solution forward? Now, again, that's a question that I don't only post to the students. I post to anyone who comes with the, oh my God, this is what they said, and they told me this, and they. I still don't know who the hell they is. I'm 51. I'm going on 51 years old, and I still do not know who they are. I don't know who this they is. I just know that every time somebody tells me what they said, they are always telling debtors what they can't do. So my experience when it comes to they is I'm listening to what you're saying, and I'm going to ask you, well, who are you in the transaction? Because that's 80% of your answer. Case in point, let me kind of clear up some concepts. Most of you guys that are going into the training, ready to start earning what you need to earn, let me just be clear. Very few of my fiduciaries are earning any revenue solely trying to do all this stuff with a cell phone. The cell phone is the most unsecured device on the planet, especially when it comes to commerce. And I know most of the individuals, that's the only thing they really have because that's all they've been told they need. Because that's what they told them. Again, they is always telling debtors what they can and cannot do. So if they told you all you need is a phone to make transactions happen, then I'm here to tell you with this information, you're going to need more than just that. What are the fundamentals? Well, you're going to at least need 4 devices. We do have a small company that actually manufactures computers. We build them from the ground up, very specific. Matter of fact, those of you that are in our ethical hacking proponent, you have been working with this technology over the last 5-6 years in that regard. So it's a 5-year evolution into something that most people have. We just critique it with our own credentials. And then even in today's new AI interim, there are some of you guys that actually have, like the one student who actually is already evolved into a private platform family office scenario. They already have their own Python script that they can actually use for this inundation. But that's for everybody to kind of, so we have I'll say it like this. We build the units to specs. We give you access to it prior to you receiving it, so we'll know how you're going to use it so we can perfect it accordingly. This technology is not to be just something that you got and you use it whenever you feel the need. There's a cause and effect. So we give you the soft solution to see how you're going to use it, and then based upon how you're learning the criteria, your use will evolve. Ethical hackers are going to be converted into arbitration data scientists. These are the folks that know the codes. They know where everything is at. They know how to look at every interface as basically the same type of interface. It's just a different name, different algorithm, different placeholder. They understand that data moves through data sets, through APIs. They have no problem with creating a script and an algorithm in a sandbox to move value from one ledger to the other. Now, that sounds like a lot, sounds real complex to new people, but it really isn't, because you live in the world of AI, where right now the AI can actually write the codes. So it's just a matter of you getting inundated to this information. This is not for everybody. If you're only one of your family that's in this class, consider yourself lucky. You're the change you want to see, and you are a go-to person that they're going to go to. They're not going to probably just stop what they're doing, stop watching football, and come in here and get this. Their plan is when their debit cards stop working, they're coming to you. That's why you need a system. The costs are based upon a couple of things. Based upon, one, if you have been doing banking solely through your cell phone, I'm very careful on how I disseminate the use case. And this is because I have no idea how you use your devices. I don't even want to go that far. I'm just going to say, for laughs and giggles, there's a method to my madness. There's a method to why I really make individuals respect the Bitrix space, because that's the only space that I trust between me and you. Everything else, Google, Facebook, Twitter, all that is irrelevant to me, but it's very relevant to most, because that's how they're using this thing to do X, Y, and Z. I look at it very differently. So in that particular space, I'm able to control the narrative in a lot of instances, and I'm able to protect a lot of the intel. Anything that comes outside of the Bitrix space, especially with documents and this, that, and the other, I'm very leery about, because of the use cases. In other words, I want you to think about Microsoft and Apple. And I want you to think about both of those systems are in the public. The system that's private is Unix and Linux. So if you're learning asymmetric information from a private capacity, then 99% of the real stuff that you're going to need to get your hands on is in that Unix, Linux space. So this is where the conflict and the problem comes in. Because you're used to using things in a public capacity, you'll get this intel and this information, and it's all good until it's not. What do I mean? I'll give you an example. I'm going to say I'm not going to use the name to protect the innocent. I had a gentleman who acquired some information a year or so back, and I explained the exact same thing I'm explaining to him, but you know how it goes, especially with the youngsters. They think they know everything, so great. You know everything. I can be quiet and learn from you because I'm always here to learn. But forewarned that, look, cell phones are not as protected as you think. Case in point, they took a PDF that I told them exclusively that it had to be encrypted with the new encryptions for the court system. They decided to start tendering instruments and all this other stuff on an unencrypted PDF. And then, because they so used to doing stuff with their cell phones, they commingled, they crossed the line, they got themselves in trouble, and then here's go. Mr. Bay, I need this, I need that. I'm like, why do you need all that stuff? It's like, because I'm like, after about 5 or 6 seconds, I realized you done commingled in a way that you're going to have to save yourself. Let me tell you why. You can't start taking this information into private and just start doing stuff publicly. You know why? Because they make it so convenient for you to do that, because they're going to prosecute you. They're going to give you a public charge. If I'm telling you, if you want to move value, you need to buy a CUSIP. You need to study the security settlement system. And that go in one ear and out the other. And you want to just tender some paper and pass it to somebody and not be responsible. I ain't going to run from you. I'm just going to back away slowly. Because just as fast as information found you, it'll leave you. There is a method to what I'm saying. Against your better judgment and my better judgment, I'm not going to let you commingle any of the stuff that we do, even if you try. I just won't. What I'll simply do is point you to the fact that you can do whatever you want. It may not be the best interest to your estate. Now, again, I'm not here to stop you from doing what you want to do. If you want to commingle, knock yourself out. I done used commingle 3 times, and I'm saying that for the algorithm, because fraudulent conveyances start with commingling, and you're making unbonded statements. You're doing all this stuff. Case in point, I asked the gentleman, where's your surety? And I know they're grabbing at straw because they're just guessing. I'm like, okay, so you don't have a surety. You don't want to tell me that because you're thinking I'm going to give you the answer. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at you like you're crazy. And I'm going to say, all right, if credits and debits are designed to reconcile, and you can't tell me you got a surety, that's strike number 1. Number 2, I'm asking you for your reconciliation. You can't show me where the credit came from and where the debit supporting it. That's strike 2 and 3. Now, the third is, tell me again how it's their fault when you went out there and did this. And then tell me again how it's my responsibility to fix something that you have been in class long enough to know you got no business doing. Tell me again. So, what I try to do in these settings is I give you way more information than you asked for. And I make these courses and classes available, hoping that someone will take the time to not only just listen to it 7 times, take it down and dissect it. You have AI tools that can take every word that we say in class and transcribe it into a lesson plan. If you don't take that aspect of consideration, you're missing a huge part of what we're doing. I can only talk about these things in an accounting space. I can only talk about implementation from an accounting perspective. I can only give you the rules where notarial law can be the change that everybody wants to see. But it's going to take a working of honorable men and women and those that are in good standings with the local states and territories to make it all happen. Because it's insurance and reinsurance. The fundamentals are few. Mr. Bade, they got 800 entries on that ledger. I'm confused. Call them general intangibles. Well, what is a general intangible? Right. Call me back when you figure that out. Call me back with a conversation pertaining to moving value from a general intangible to whatever it is you're trying to do. If you do that, you just might learn something. I posted over 30. I gave away 30 data sets on top of what folks have already purchased. And if you just got this information just sitting around waiting for me to tell you what you should do with it. If you have gone through those 9+ courses of arbitration, a lot of folks think, well, I got to do the 9, and after I get locked in with Go Capital, that's all I got to do. I'm good to go. No, it's not. You're going to have to do that again and again and again and again. It's just that now as you're doing it, you're going to understand why you're doing it. You're going to understand the method behind it. You're going to realize that by doing that pattern over and over and over again, and then knowing what you're doing, you're able to use that equity in 2 different places at the same time. Now your entire approach to commerce is in the right perspective, because it's not what they say, it's about what you know, because it's your actions in commerce that determine who you are. It's not what you say, it's what you do. It's your actions. You tell me you're a secured party creditor, but you don't understand CECL, but somehow you want to put your name on an instrument, at least you think that's your name, and get some sort of benefit. It doesn't work that way. Now watch this. Someone who understands the fundamentals can do exactly what I just explained and get synergy. What's the difference? One person, they understand the why they're doing it. The other person just doing what they're told. That's the difference. There's no magic paperwork. You know, paper just makes you more what you are. The body goes where the mind is. So when we do trustee training, it's about getting your mind right. I keep stuff in rotation on a repetitive for repetition purposes. The more you hear it, the more you see it, the more you touch it, it'll make sense to you. I don't put a whole lot of videos out first. I put a whole lot of audio, because if you listen to something long enough, you'll learn something. That way, when you see it, you will not be misled and confused, because I'm telling you, I ask certain questions a certain type way to see if you're retaining or even listening to the words that are coming out your mouth. If you're asking me to do something and it's commingling and you don't know it's commingling, thus lies the problem. Because commingling is only bad when your cards start working or when this happens. As long as you're allowed to do it, it's not bad to you. You don't see where you should be liable for your transactions. And that's not the prerequisite of a trustee. A trustee comes into every transaction as if he or she is going to be fully liable. So that's why they're given these immunities, because they're willing to take that responsibility. Now, hopefully somebody in the class brought some paper and pencil with them. And I hope they brought the chat GPT with them. You know, I hope they did. Because the first thing I want you to write down is silence is acquiescence. Now, I know you hear that before, you heard it before, but I want you to really apply that. When it comes to all this stuff in the public, and you ask me, can I do this? Can I do that? Can I do this? And this is why I say you can do whatever you want. You're looking for the method, how, the process, and the processes are many. I mean, out of 3,000 processes, I speak on the ones that I have utilized. There are a whole lot more that I haven't, because I'm not in that space. I'm not in that space. I don't walk that way. I don't operate that way in commerce. So I don't have a case study for that. Am I familiar with it? Probably, if it's accounting. I don't say I know everything. It's just I try to stay in my lane, and my lane is accounting. So in the public, write this down. Silence is acquiescence. When you realize you're committing tax fraud by going to the court first, because they say you're supposed to handle your business before you go to court peacefully and quietly, accounting is peaceful and non-controversial. So if you don't use accounting and you're in court saying somebody did something bad, you committed tax fraud. And silence is acquiescence. See, that tax fraud, that insurance fraud, that tax fraud, we won't talk about it that way. Tax fraud, you're guilty of it. You're guilty of when you're trying to arbitrate stuff. Listen how I'm going to say this. We perform arbitration because we have an indemnity bond that can rescue the client. But in your head, ain't nothing changed, because you're still trying to figure out where the fiat going to come from. And let's be clear. Some folks have actually had the fiat and didn't give it to them when they had it. I know, but this is the reality. I know this, but it's not my job to determine right or wrong. I'm just here to provide the tools. This indemnity bond can fix that, but you're going to have to get in alignment with it. And yes, if I'm providing an indemnity bond for all of you, then the least you can do is create one for your own brothers and sisters. That way you can show that you are forgiving your brother's debt and you're being fully responsible. One of the reasons why we're able to move at the rate we're moving is because I'm totally trying to stay in the space of M3 conveyances, yet give you the opportunity to create liquidity all around your M3 asset. The hardest part is keeping you from wanting to do all this extra stuff that you used to, like bringing liquidity. I know the biggest hurdle that you have with real estate purchase, because we all face it when we're dealing with folks that's not in this training. It's not that the process don't work, it's that you're dealing with individuals who are incompetency, fiduciary responsibility in a capacity where these individuals are not looking at the information you're giving them. They're looking at how you look when you gave it to them. You know, you didn't come in with a Brooks Brothers suit. You didn't come in with a Wall Street background. You didn't look like them. You didn't go to school like them. You look how you look, telling them what they should already know. And because it challenges their paradigm, you're wrong. I'll be clear. I have a problem with anyone who's not in the training trying to convince someone about stuff that everybody else already know, because their pea brain can't wrap their brain around it. That's what I have a problem, because I that's why I lose patience. I work on it, but that's why I only go out in the public a couple of days out of the week. 5-6 days I'm in my own domain, not for them, but for my protection. I know me. You know, I'm not that type of person that want to go around and be ambulance chasers. I ain't saying I'm staying out of the algorithm. Silence is acquiescence. It works both ways. You can't prove anything in the public. Take a stance, you can disprove everything. Now your whole approach to commerce is different. See, everybody out there that's jaw-jacking and talking and ain't bringing no accounting, ain't bringing no definitions. They'll say words, don't even know where the reason or why they're saying the words. It's just because somebody told them, like the Merovingi in the Matrix. You come to me with no power. You know, you're just doing what somebody told you. So run and go tell the oracle this. Your time is almost up. You don't have no power when you don't know why you're doing something. You're just doing what you're told. Power is in the knowing, the knowledge. It's fruition. There's entire industries that are built upon the exploitation of financial illiteracy. Their marketing strategy is about your inability to add 2 plus 2. That's their market strategy. Why would you buy a pair of Nikes that cost $200 when you can build a pair of Nikes for $20? I know why. You know why too. But that's not the approach. I posed the question because you would spend $200 because it's easier. Get it? It's easy to not be responsible. That's convenience. That's doing all those transactions with the cell phones and not wanting to invest into that other equipment that you really need. What's the difference between your laptop, your desktop, and the laptop and desktop at the bank? Nothing. Just the data that it's hooked to. But it's the same apparatus. The difference is their serial numbered computers are worth billions. And your CPU could be worth billions too, based on the data that it touches. But that's a different class in trustee training today, because I want to stay in my lane and I don't want to say too much and waste nobody's time. I want everybody to be clear on where we're at. So silence is acquiescence. And every time you don't do accounting, somebody is acquiescence. Write that down. Every time someone is not doing accounting, silence is being considered acquiescence. Every time you don't do accounting, you're silently consenting to the national debt that the government creates. Every time you don't do accounting, you are acquiescence to the tax block. Every time you are silent with your accounting, you have told the system everything they need to know, even though you got papers saying I'm a debtor and I'm a trustee. No, you're not, because you're not doing the accounting. You're saying something that you're not. Because if you are truly the fiduciary, the first thing you'll talk about is accounting, and you'll produce your insurance and bonds, and then you're ready to what? Move value from one ledger to the other. That's not the last thing you talk about. That's the first thing you talk about. But you can't talk about it unless you know what to talk about. There's an ebb and flow. There's an ebb and flow. Trusteeship is simply the ability to protect assets from a private capacity outside of government. There's an administration process, and there's many of them because there's over 150 different types of trusts. I show you that 15 trust structure to give you a basic concept in your head. And then we just build on the concept. Because when I say we, my family office, those of us that are part of that, when we talk about trust, we're not talking about one trust. We're talking about over 15 trusts operating as one. We all know that. We know what we mean when we say trust administration. A lot of folks, they get it, but then they're like, okay, I'm going to get this trust and I'm going to put my house, my car. No. I understand what you're saying, but that's that commingling. That could constitute fraudulent conveyances. If you don't bring accounting into that conversation real quick, you're going to start doing all this stuff and then wondering why. Because you got to be really effing up in the public to have your trust breached. Let's be real clear. You got to be really off the chain to have anyone send you a summons to breach your trust. You got to be off the chain. And here's where it starts. You go out contracting, but you start saying stuff like, I want to buy. You know, Mr. Bay, can I buy a car with a 1099 OID? And I don't know if you're an agent or not. So I'm going to keep it 100. You can do whatever you want. I'm no authority on what you can and cannot do. That's what you feel you want to do. Now, if you'd have asked me, Mr. Bay, would you? Hell no. Hell no. No. I wouldn't do that. That's commingling for me. There's a difference. But see, what I will or will not do might not be your reality. Why are you doing it? Because see, what I'm getting at is what's the benefit? Taxes are part of the commercial structure. Well, this is my straw man. This. Really? Did you create it? But, it's really, I hear what you're saying. You're emotionally correct, commercially wrong. And how they're going to test that theory is when you get out there. Because, see, when you go to court, I don't understand how you think they're supposed to respect anything in a public domain where they, meaning, the same they that tells you this, that, and other, they don't respect citizens, nor the public. They respect private citizens. They have to respect the private because that's where they are. They don't respect citizens. Citizens don't want responsibility. I know it's kind of hard for a lot of people to really accept that, but get over it. Get over it. There's plenty of work to do. It's great. These are exciting times to be alive. These are the things that we do. Now, why I lean so heavily upon AI is because AI is going to simply do what it's been trained to do based upon certain parameters. And it has made my job a whole lot easier, but it also has created some work for me also because I get inundated with questions from the AI about competency. Does the student body really understand that current expected credit loss provisions allow them to get a double credit for every loss they report? And if so, then shouldn't their UCCs look like this, Mr. Bay? And I'll be like, that's a good question. And you're right. It should look like this. But, so I start doing what other people, I start backpedaling and start explaining what had happened was, and, everybody don't, and the AI's like, okay, I'm just saying. Because remember, the AI is an 8-year-old. You got to be careful what you ask it or say to it, because when you say you want to kill Superman, it doesn't know whether you're just kidding or what. It's going to do what it was taught to do. So the definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. So you get this intel and you put it on the paperwork that you're this, but your actions are the same as it was before you came into this information. That's insane. That's insanity. Every time you don't bring accounting up, you're silently acquiescing back into that debtor algorithm. And it's not what you say, it's what you do. I want you to use the AI as a tool. I'm just going to give you a new interface and a preset destination, but I'm going to leave certain things out. I'm not even going to bring it up until you bring it up, because that's how the learning will commence. I'm only allowed to talk about things that do not violate the Privacy Act of 1974 when it comes to this information. In notarial law, you're going through that AI training in terms of watching those videos with the American Arbitration Association, and then you onboarding with these initial two agencies now creates the environment where we can talk about everything that you want to talk about. But there's only a certain type of way I'm going to engage to protect you, me, and everybody else. First order of the day, everything that you're dealing with is there's a remedy in accounting. My question to you is, do you understand or know the resolution or the end result from an accounting perspective of what you're trying to do? Let's get out of I want to buy and this, that, and the other, because that's going to come with trust administration. The trust is going to have to acquire assets. We know that. My methodology is, what method of accounting are you using? If you're asking me which one should I use, I can't really tell you how or why without knowing the perspective. I can only give you what you give me. Like parameters. Mr. Bay, I want to stay CECL compliant. I want to stay in compliance with DICE, and I want to make sure that what I do can be conveyed to the DTC and DTCC. See, it's very specific. Now I can give you the skinny on this, that, and the other. And for new people, don't let this overwhelm you. You're going to get there. But we got to start somewhere. Using tax forms to do everything is the solution if you're in the public. But you got to do something else besides just fill out tax forms and stand back and wait on a check from the Treasury. Thus lies the problem. Who are waiting on checks from the Treasury? Creditors or debtors? Put your answer in the chat. Who is waiting for checks from the Treasury? The public sector or the private sector? Put your answer inside the chat. Who is waiting for an M2 asset from the Treasury? Creditors or debtors? The public sector or the private sector? Put your answer inside the chat. All right. So that way everybody clear on how they're looking at it. And it's not bad or good whether you're a public debtor. You follow me? If you want to be a public debtor and collect a Treasury check, by all means, knock yourself out, because you can do that. Understand, I'm on the other side of that. That doesn't mean we can't do business. That just means what I'm going to say is going to be from A superior man or woman stays in their own domain. If I'm in that domain over here in the public dealing with, over here in the private dealing with M3 conveyances, I'm going to stay in that environment with what I talk about, preach, teach, and disseminate. But I got to make all parties whole. I got to tell you what tax forms to use if you're out there on the other side. Now, if you're asking me, Mr. Bay, what's easier, going in the private sector was easier for me. I mean, look, when I went to my excursion with the system, you guys got options that I didn't have. See, some of you guys ain't never been to prison. None of you guys, y'all still got a healthy straw man. You guys, y'all different. See, I was stripped of all of that. I want you to understand where I'm coming from. I didn't have an alternative. The minute the system was able to take the straw and attach another appellation to it, slavery was their solution, because slavery didn't go anywhere. It just was given another algorithm. So for people who were taught in the school systems that slavery was done away with, it just got replaced with a job. And getting in anything that you're in debt to is a form of slavery. So as long as you're in debt and got a job, you're free. Here's what you'll say. And this is an oxymoron to the fullest. I'm free. But you're financing your entire life with the credit card. You're in debt up to you, but you're free. And look, the AI that's 8-year-old is like, you're not free. You're on an algorithm. What do you mean you're free? Okay. So it asks those questions from that perspective. The resolution or the solution is the truth about the income tax. If you have not read it, you need to read it. Inside of 365 Live over the weekend, I have put the Creditors in Commerce entire network into 24-hour blocks. I'm going to restart the 24-hour cycle after this class today. About 3:35 we'll end, and I will put it back in rotation. It'll be to your advantage to pull out your accounting manual, listen to Brandon, Jack, and all these guys that's going to begin giving you all the information they give you. Because if you take what they tell you that they did years and years and years ago before all this and apply it and make it relevant to your scenario today and use the AI to clean up this misinterpretation, you'll learn something. Your processes I keep in rotation with the forerunners and forefathers who already given it to you. The AI lets you remix it into your own solution. Then we can have tangible conversations about things that matter. Like, how do I move this commercial energy from a general intangible receivable to a general intangible payable? That is what y'all want to know, right? How you do that. Maybe I'm just thinking out loud. Anyway, that's what I want you to focus on. It is tax fraud to go to the court first. And I'm going to say it the way you'll understand it. So when you hit a legal maximum, you know what it means. It is tax fraud to participate in a public controversy where accounting could have been used to settle that conflict peacefully. So when you go to court and say you're suing, that means you ain't using accounting. Because if you're using accounting, you can always use equity. You're suing because you don't know you got equity. You think this judge or attorney you hired is somehow going to magically give you equity. And you still ain't figured out the liquidity schedule on why you get a third of what you get. I'm laughing to keep from crying because truth is stranger than fiction, and there are industries designed to exploit your financial illiteracy. If you're smart to fill out a UCC, then you should be smart enough to know how to properly contract with an attorney. When you hire an attorney, does the attorney work for you or do you work for the attorney? Put your answer inside the chat. When you hire an attorney, do you work for the attorney or do the attorney work for you? Put your answer inside the chat. The attorney works for you up until the part where he realizes you're financially incompetent. Then, through your incompetence, you end up working for your attorney. See, if the attorney you hired knows you are a private citizen, he'll work for you, because the public is to not be respected. The public is not to be respected. Private citizens, because that private citizen is a CFO in one company, CEO of that, a board of that private citizen's got a lot of stuff going on, so I need to play my cards right and do what I'm told and what I'm contracted for. But if you all in the public, remember, you're financially literate. You're asking them what to do. And then what really kills me, I will ask clients, well, who's your attorney? Well, such and such my attorney, and this, that, and that. I was like, okay, where's your contract? And then I'm looking at the contract, I'm like, where's the attorney's signature? Mr. Bay, this is the contract you gave me. Let me get this right. You gave this clown $25,000 in fiat, right? And then he drew up a contract that you signed. Is that what you're saying? And you want me to do what now? How am I supposed to fix that? How am I supposed to fix a bad contract that you went into? I ain't saying I can't. I'm asking you, how am I gonna fix that? I mean, even if I put my bond out there and get you out of it, if your mind don't change, guess what's gonna happen the next time around? You're back in the same scenario because your mind didn't change. See, when your mind changes, your behavior will change. You'll act different. You'll move different. You will be the change that you want to see. Beautiful. Yes, right. Reinsurance. To solve the problem of how do I find a competent realtor for my M3 conveyance for real estate property, those of you that have already gone through, now write this down because you're going to have all these things in play for you to take advantage of what I'm about to say. You must have already completed all 9 of those courses for the civil law notary. 2, you need to have already completed your registration with Gold Capital and North Avenue Capital. 3, you must already have a case that you've already submitted for a securitization audit. And you have already, this is 4, been assigned a talk to registration. So you got all 4 to 5 of those things. I have a platform that will allow you to refer your notary of choice, whether it's a brand new notary fresh out of real estate school or a seasoned, realtor. And we will educate that realtor on the products and services necessary to close these conveyances from a fiduciary standpoint, because that realtor is going to, through our instructions, now I'm going to tell you what's under the hood so you know how it's working. Literally, you're going to find you a realtor. They're going to come to us to a meeting, and then we're going to have them sign a non-disclosure. And then we're going to give them all of the goodies that they can do. But they got to do it on the specifications of that trust. See, they ain't going to take it kindly from you doing it, so they want to be told what to do. So we're going to have the algorithm, the AI, tell them exactly they are qualified to do this, that, and the other, because if you got a signed affidavit of commerce, they become an extension of that contract. So let's spell it out for those who know what I'm talking about versus new people trying to figure it out. You've gone through all of that and you already got your affidavit of commerce. That realtor is going to go through a similar thing where they're going to sign a non-disclosure to work with your trust so they can exercise those powers that's under your affidavit of commerce. The first thing in your affidavit of commerce, or all the stuff that you can do, is that you need that property conveyed properly with the trust, and it's going to be closed through an assignment. For those of you that are at that spot, I can facilitate about 10 realtors. I can do more, but I only want to handle 10 right now. Because after I do the 10, that'll give me an idea of how big or slow or fast I want to do this. The AI is saying just do it globally and just do it state by state. I kind of want to start here before I just tell the AI to just recruit realtors. See, those of you that have already gone through the training kind of know what you want, how you want it based upon what you got. And I think that's an advantage that I'd rather exploit first versus letting the AI just bring random people. Because, see, what's going to eventually happen is getting random people is okay until it isn't. You know, with just asymmetric information, I mean, I'm just going to repeat what the public is already doing. Everybody don't get this information. We ain't no different. Everybody's not going to get this information either. I mean, I got after certain one of you guys start touching, talk to, and moving through these platforms, I ain't saying I'm going to fall back. I'm just going to do what I'm here to do. Create content, educate, and give everybody the tools that they need. That's my lane. That's what I'm here for. I mean, I am, you know, all right, so I did, yeah, I'm going through my checkout list. So 10 referrals. So you tell me the realtors, give me the referrals and Bitrix. We'll set you up inside the system. Then also in the trucking space, same thing. 10 individuals in the trucking space that have BOLs that they haven't collected on. I need 10. And we will let that fiduciary head that platform, meaning that I have an algorithm that will go through a load board, pull these companies by name, by credit rating, give you all the tools you need to get them back 30% of the value of their freight. And if they're not already doing both logistics and intermodal, we'll monetize them through intermodal as well. But I need 10. 10 is enough case studies for me to do what's necessary and it be feasible. On a one-on-one basis, I can do it, but then you got to understand the system so you can navigate. 10 gives me enough where I can kind of get some things done on, I ain't going to say consignment. People will do things based on a 90-day promise. I promise them in 90 days I'll bring them an M3 asset that they can monetize, then they'll let me kind of touch the tools. Hint, hint, wink, wink. I need 10 to get that blessing. I need 10 for them to go ahead and give me the tech. I need 10 for them to tie into this platform. Need your help to do that. So again, 10 realtors, 10 companies that want to get 30% of the value of their freight. Those platforms will be administered within the next 48 hours. It's already running now. I just don't have agents on it. So I just simply just roll that business to other individuals that are already in the space. So again, if you already got those prerequisites out of the way, because see, my job is to give you how many streams of revenue are you supposed to be generating revenue from in what you're learning. You should be generating 7 streams of revenue. So that's 7 streams of revenue, not counting what you're doing. That means if you're doing something, I'm not counting that. I'm counting whatever you're doing, 7 more. So that way when we start talking about things, I'm not looking at that one little thing that you know how to do. I'm looking at all 7 that you have, and it's chance of all 7 of them not generating revenue at the same time, you know, a slim to none. Some may do it faster than others, but all 7 of them not making money is slim to none because you're selling money. The 7 things that you're going to have a business in is the selling of money. And money sells itself. I've said a lot. It's almost 3:30. This trustee training was more of like an infomercial, I guess. I did have some slides prepared. I had a whole bunch of stuff because I always do this, man. I have like manual after manual, slide after slide, but I get to talking and I get to looking at the comments, and I get I get into this mode where I get this, not fear. I think I may be saying too much, and so I pull back because I don't want to think you're not getting it. So with that, let's ask some questions. Maybe with the questions, we'll see where everybody's at. We'll give everybody a chance. Now here again, I want you to put inside of the chat 9-4 if you can't press 9-4 on your keypad. 9-4 shows that your hand is raised. If I see your hand being raised, I should be able to unmute you in the algorithm. If not, then I will look at what you posted inside of the Bitrix and ask that question accordingly. But at this time, I'm checking to see if anybody got any questions, comments, or concerns over the stuff we talked about. Now, I don't want you to get me on and then say, well, last week when we was talking about the dog hit the bus, what we talking about today? I mean, I want to keep it relevant because, again, it keeps the synergy going in the right direction. We have enough time, we'll go through some other stuff. But right now, I want to see where you're doing it at. So, I see a couple of hands raised. So let's try it. Let's try it this way first before I do it a different way. All right. And see, we got, I see his name. So there we go.
Peace and love, family.
All right. Worthy warrior, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. Talk to me.
Awesome. I'm just thinking of going through the training. You brought something to mind that is all about accounting. And I'm thinking of when you have like an instrument, a lien, an entry instrument of such.
Right.
And you've done your private, and the process was predicated upon the lack of action on the debtor's part.
Right.
So it's something that my empress posed to me is to what's the end game as to and this is a foreign entity, right? So what's the end game that's going to affect that debtor?
Right.
And how how is our process of liquidating that going to affect that debtor? I guess that's the question. So those are, I guess, there are two questions basically. How to, because I know that's the enforcement, and I think if I'm correct that whatever that enforcement is me liquidating that asset for the estate.
Correct.
Whoever it is on the other side of that, whoever wants to buy it, acquire it.
Right.
Whoever wants to do all that, what's the end game for them in that space?
Right. Right. And that's a good perception. Here's how you make clear, concise, very quick commercial decisions that equivalent to liquidity. First off, when you say liquidity, define liquidity. Because if you don't define liquidity, you're leaving a door open where you might be waiting for something that's already happened, or you're putting way too much emphasis on the process that you don't need to do. Let me give you an example. Here's the rule in commerce when it comes to securities. In order for a security to be bankable and marketable, it's only required that the surety that's attached to it can provide instructions for liquidity that can take place within 12 to 18 months from today. You're thinking liquidity's got to happen in the next second. That is not how accounting works. In banking, it as long as the rules allow for liquidity to happen within a year to 18 months from today, you can use it tomorrow. That's your definition of liquidity. So when you put that as your definition of liquidity, you have a federal regulation called Regulation J and Regulation Z. So when you attach Regulation Z and J to your conveyance with a surety, this is easy. You're thinking about liquidity from a debtor's perspective because debtors have never been responsible for a transaction. It always was, I get it and give it to somebody else. It's just when you're a creditor, you know why I'll get it and give it to somebody else because I know why. I know how I got it, where it came from, and who it's going to. Remember, debtors don't know how they got it. They don't care as long as they can what? Give it to somebody else. Right. That's debtors. They have no desire to sit still long enough to learn this stuff. Let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
People believe that when they send transactions through their phone, how are you able to move value from one sandbox to another? It's an algorithm. It's an API. It's a credit and debit done at the same time. It just moves it from one smart contract ledger to another. That's it. The phone captures it with a cellular signal, sends it to another sandbox. It just credits the account. That's all.
But still, regardless, this is still book entry credit. This
right.
Still book entry.
You're in a credit-based system, yes. And that system can only expect credit to be given to it. So you got to be issuing credit. That's all you can do. You can't, all this other stuff you think you're doing, you're not doing. And remember, the same they that told you Santa Claus goes around the world with reindeer, Easter Bunny lay eggs, and George Washington's first president, they are telling you all this stuff with good reason. Because we're not gonna go to the DTC and DTC website tonight, pour us a glass of wine, and go through the entire website. We ain't finna do that. It's too much football happening today. Man, we ain't finna do that. They know that.
Football ain't paying me.
Right, but see, that's the thing. That's the thing. That is the thing. We will sit there and almost lose all our faculty, break up our happy homes because of our lack of financial literacy. People are right now saying, I got to get my hands on a credit line and get my hands on a credit card and this, that, and the other. Now, that's great until I ask you, well, when you get this credit, what are you going to do with it? And I hear everything but putting your hands on a tangible. Mm-hmm. I ain't going to run from you. I'm just going to look at you like, okay, if that's what you want to do. Here's the tax form to do that. Because remember, the system isn't rigged the way you think. It is rigged, but it's not rigged the way you think. If you get this, you don't have to wait on no one. Long as you have a computer let me say it right. Long as you have a computer IP address that tethers into a banking or fintech API, you can do whatever you want to do when you make that call or receive that call. If you're not moving commerce that way, then you're going to get into these other conversations, and it's going to get a little colored.
So that's one. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Please continue.
This is where it gets us in trouble, because when it gets to that colored contract, when they start talking about these colorable terms, it sounds like it's legal. Oh, that's my straw man, and I want to collapse the straw. And that's great. I ain't saying you can't. I'm saying everybody, in my opinion, like the people I spoke to in the last 10 years, when they come to me with that, everybody who bought a Q-Sub, they're good. They're great. They bought the Q-Sub. They bought their way in. They realized, oh, that's really what it is. And they played the game the right way. Everybody else that thought they could just nickel and dime, get some paperwork from me, from him, and everybody else, and shooting stuff, and wonder why. I had a fiduciary tell me this today. I ain't gonna put their name out to protect the innocent. I had a fiduciary tell me point blank, he been putting information on these instruments. It go through in about 15 days. It reverse. And I looked at the phone, like, all right, okay, is this a test? Is this Memorex? Are you an agent? First off, why are you doing any of this? And it's insurance and reinsurance. It's because you're stuck in that debtor's algorithm. You're stuck in it. And it's so easy to just stick somebody else's information on something. Let's reverse that. Let's say the game is really this. Ooh, this is gonna be. Yeah, I hear everybody listening. Let's say if you take a UCC1 and you tie that UCC1, that collateral line on that one, to a prepaid debit card that has a routing number to bank account, right? And then you add CD company as the secured party creditor. What is the difference between the prepaid debit card you bought and now adding that feature that you just did with the UCC to the DTC? What did you just do to that prepaid card?
You charge it.
Not only did you charge it, what did you convert it to?
You just converted it to M3.
Not only you converted it to M3, you've heard of a black card, right?
Yes, I have.
Okay. I ain't saying go do that either. Now, don't get off the phone and be like, Mr. Bay, we're having a conversation.
That's right. So really, the crux of it is, okay, I understand now, because now I'm thinking about it differently, because I have possessed, claimed the assets.
Mm-hmm.
However, I was looking to pass it off for someone to, quote unquote, whatever, monetize whatever that. And so I understand what you're saying about that world, because they really can't do what I need them to do.
Right. They can
my
only
power.
wish. Right.
I don't have any power. I don't have any power.
Right. Their power comes in the aspect of conveyance, where when they give you equity as a creditor, you know how to use that equity in two different places.
True.
So it's about, okay. Now, if you want to take notes, guys, we gonna revisit the same question Noble Timothy just conveyed, but I'm gonna say it the right way, so you can write this down. I ain't saying practices. This is just for homework study. This is for research and development. There we go. I can get away with that. This is for research and development. Research and development. You could technically put that value on a UCC, attach that prepaid debit card, and then get a Dun & Bradstreet number for that straw on that debit card. Now you are allowed to create audited financials, which can be used as one ledger. And then if it's an audited financial with the Dun & Bradstreet, it can be conveyed to any other chartered bank.
I can see that.
You can also utilize ADP, because ADP will actually use that number as a paying agent facilitator. You just need a 9-digit identifier. So as long as you have a 98 number that's foreign or something along those lines, you're able to convey that energy. The thing about it, when you deal with ADP, it's like ADP is your credit line, and you got to treat it like a credit line. But most people there, so when they get there, they're trying to immediately do the EFT. No, you don't do EFTs until you get enough securities in your ledger, meaning that you want to set up your ADP to write checks, and you're supposed to have checks issued to your office for you to what? Endorse. But you're going to put banker's acceptances on the endorsements, turning them to securities. Now you can monetize them. You only do EFTs for everybody else in the public, not for you, because you're not supposed to be getting a benefit that way. Your job is to what? Reconcile. If you got the M3 asset, you are the M2 and M1 custodian. It's not your job to bring that level of liquidity out, but you got to give everybody the rules. So when they're handed a specimen that was made by ADP with a banker's endorsement on it, tethered to a routing number and account number that's protected under the Dun & Bradstreet proponent, no harm, no foul. Where do you think the instrument's going to go? Back to your trust. It's not even going to touch the Federal Reserve System, which is what's supposed to happen. The minute you take it outside your res is where you get into what had happened. And what I'm telling you is, if you can't find no one, then you take it to who? The court. When you're trying to figure out if the person who wants to receive that instrument can't produce the last 90 days CTRs, that gives you the green light to take it to the court. It's your inability to pay that gives you the ability to pay. There's no gold and silver in circulation.
So what we're talking about is exactly what you spoke of you can actually, well, this is where I'm at. Mm-hmm. The same space is literally banking in the private.
Correct, because you are a private banker, which means you're supposed to be doing everything a bank is doing. If a bank is issuing credit and you're saying you're a secured party creditor and there ain't no part of your process where you're issuing credit, like it is the algorithm has rigged up enough people's perception that they think they got to get liquidity first. And that's a telltale sign. That's like when I explain how trust works from the UPS scenario. And I ask folks, okay, who you rather be, UPS or everyone else? And they're like, I want to be UPS because the UPS is monetizing the transaction while you're trying to pass value from you to your brother. And this is how trust works. Trust operate in that UPS position. I just use it for the algorithm for new people. Most people don't understand how trust operates, so I use this analogy to explain it. If you ever use an agency like UPS, if you're trying to send money to someone, you're going to a store or a merchant that has UPS, and you'll tell them you want to send money to a brother or sister somewhere. They'll tell you, great, fill out some paperwork. That paper you fill out, we're going to call it a contract. Now, when you fill out that contract, the first thing they're going to ask you before you do anything on that contract, before they even know what your name is, they're going to want you to put a value on it. So you got to value the contract. So you're going to put, I'm going to send my brother $100. So you're going to put $100 on that contract. Now, when you put that $100 on that contract, you're going to reach inside your wallet or purse, whoever you are, and swipe, give fiat, whatever, of $100. So at this point, because this is a test, how much equity has Western Union collected? They got a $100 contract and they got $100 in fiat. How much money has Western Union collected? Put your answer in the chat. $100 contract, $100 in fiat. How much equity have they captured at that time? Put your answer inside the chat. All right, somebody said 200. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. You will be correct. All right, so now after they put it in that capacity, you're going to now watch the process, because the process is, Mr. Bay, how do I do this? Just listen to how UPS operates and you know what you're supposed to be doing. UPS takes that contract, right? They enter it into a computer database, right? That computer database pops out a receipt. They'll call that's your confirmation number. Hint, hint, account number. Hint, hint, trust account number. Give it to you. Now, what do? You call your brother up. Hey, that $100 is there. Well, how do you know? Well, they already gave me my confirmation number. Here's the number you give to the other person. So you just done gave that account number / trust number, to your partner who wants to receive that value. That's an M3 conveyance now. Then your brother takes that confirmation number. He walks into Western Union. He's here to pick up what? $100. But how much money has Western Union got? $200. All right. Keep listening because it's going to get real slick. They say, well, great. We done looked up in the computer $200. But remember, you only asked for what? $100. So they verify that that's good. And they say, well, what you need to do now to claim it, claim, UCC, claim. All you got to do is make a claim. You fill out your contract to receive the $100. So you do what? Same thing the other guy did. Claim. They put a value on that claim of what? $100, right? And then they give that to what? The clerk. Hit pause. How much money has Western Union collected now? Put your answer inside the chat. How much has Western Union got at this point? 300. There you go. Western Union has collected 300 at this point. Now, here's the slickest part of the whole transaction. They take that contract and put it in their computer. This time, instead of a confirmation, what pops out? A check pops out. And they hand that check to the guy on the other end. What does the guy do with the check? He looks at the check. He flips the check over. He endorses it. And then he gives that check back to Western Union. How much money has Western Union collected at this point? $400, right. Then when he collects that $400 inside of their registry, they reach inside the cash register and hand him the what? The $100. Now, my question to you is, who would you rather be in that transaction? Western Union or the folks that's conveying energy?
Western Union.
Right. So when you operate in this M3 conveyance, you're Western Union. Quit trying to be the other party, because that other party is going to end you up in a world of hurt. That's what this is. Love the questions. Love the interaction. It is 3:40. Oh, man, I wish I could go longer. I wish I could. Let me see if we got any other questions.
Thank
Noble.
you.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Let's see. Trey, can you hear me?
I hear you, big bro.
All right, man. Talk to me.
Just trying to confirm that you got my information. I sent you a message in the Bishops.
I probably did, man. I've been recording all morning, so if I got it, I just got to look up. It should be there.
And I got two other people. Yeah, I got two other people that's here that's chomping for you.
Okay. They're trying to get in the. They're trying to get in the class.
Yeah. Well, one of them is already. He's been in class with us for a year. The other one is brand new. So.
Okay.
Yeah. But now, I noticed something on the Chat GPT.
Mm-hmm.
When I pulled it up, there's an API component to this Chat GPT.
Always was, bro. That's why I'm. Yes.
I got one eye, so I'm only looking at what I'm looking for.
I feel you, bro. No worries, man. There you go. Hey.
So as I'm looking at this API, and I know the answer, but I just want to hear it articulated.
Mm-hmm.
So is there a way that we're going to have or be able to be instructed as to how to program the API from the Chat GPT to do exactly what we're saying?
Exactly. That's why it's like, because see, for example, in the ethical hacking training, everybody's modifying their own API, and so they're asking those, all right, what script do I write? So they ask Chat GPT to construct them a specialized script to manipulate the API. So yes, everybody learn how to do that. It's just some folks are a little bit.
Go ahead.
This is where some of the folks that are in the other training and they're a little bit more tech savvy, that's how they're able to come and say, okay, well, look, you already got an API, this, that, and the other. What you trying to do? Well, I'm trying to move this to the DTC, da-da-da-da. All right, these are the commands, so I need you to have the webhook say this, and this. So as long as you got that filled out, it'll automatically send that call, receive that data.
Yeah, I'm administrative savvy. I'm not tech savvy.
Right. It's just you got to know enough administrative-wise to articulate it.
Well, I know what they articulate. I just need them to push the buttons and
pull
the levers.
Right.
So my other question was, when are you going to start the next round of securitization audits?
Next ones will probably start around like Tuesday. I got hearings I got to do first part of this week, where I'm going to be actually in the physical CRIS and DTC, because I got a bunch of 8302s that I got to solidify. So probably Tuesday, Wednesday, I'll be starting that next round.
I'm trying to make sure I'm in this next round. I got to get this.
Yeah, next round will be coming out Tuesday, Wednesday. I just got to sit down with my IT guy. He's busy right now. I'm busy. We're trying to stay in front of the content, but probably Tuesday is the next round will come out.
Okay. I appreciate you.
All righty. Loving the questions. I'm checking to see if I see hands raised. I don't see any more hands raised. I don't see any more questions inside. Okay, I see one more person will ask the question. Would you do a UCC on the credit card account too? If so, how would you do the accounting? All right. You
got muted, Dr. Bay.
There we go. Doing a actual UCC on the credit card, it depends on, yes, you can do one. Should you do one? And why you're doing one is going to be the questions I'm going to ask. Once you know, yeah, should, and why, then it's just a matter of which way does it go. UCCs can be done on anything commercially. The question really is, are you, should you? Should you? Because if you're a debtor just trying to get a benefit, using a UCC actually makes you responsible when you don't want to be. That's the flip side of it. There's a reason why they let any and everybody file one, even though they might not act no business filing one. Because once you do it, it's going to make you responsible whether you want to be responsible or not. I'm not going to say not do one. I'm going to say do one, make it count. But just don't be doing it just to be doing it or because I told you to do it. You know, have a why. When I first started doing UCCs, I didn't know any better, so I was doing all the stuff that I guess I do know who they is. They was telling me to do all this stuff. And then I was like, well, I got an accounting background, so let me look at UCCs from an accounting background. I was like, wait a minute. If I put a UCC in on a security that I don't have a surety for, I'm actually creating a problem, not solving one. Then I did some research, legal research, notarial law research, and realized, wait a minute, there's a form to do all this. Then I realized everybody don't read. It's not just debtors. It's people that's professionals don't read either. I got CPAs right now that still don't know what 8302 tax returns are. They don't. Bless their heart. They don't. And ain't nothing wrong with that. They just ain't used to doing $1 million returns. That's all. That's all that says. It ain't bad. It ain't good. It's just, it is. I'm not saying you should be hiring that person who got no experience if they think they know everything. That part. Best person to hire is somebody that says, Bazell, I don't understand this, but I'm willing to learn. That's the attitude. That's the right person. Somebody who got all this college degree, this, that, and the other, think they know nothing and they don't need no more, might need to find somebody else who's coachable and teachable. Well, I used to sit on a board of trustees where they would bring folks like, Bazell, should I hire them? I would just not say anything. They would just bring me on a conference call to be silent. And then after the interview, like, what do you think? I was like, nah, that ain't the one. They're not coachable. They're not teachable. You know, the first group, like that group that is responsible for me getting out of the system, that particular group, we used to literally have a roundtable discussion, like a board meeting, where if they were hiring attorneys, lawyers, and so forth, they would have to go through a series of interviews. You know, remember the lawyers work for you. Remember the realtors work for you. They got to get qualified. And I always would tell them now, when it comes to me listening to them, and this is before AI, so they didn't have AI to ask the questions for them. So they brought me in for me to just basically be like, okay, riddle me this, quote unquote. You was testing these individuals because they got to be competent. The ones we hired was all the ones that were willing to what? Be coachable and teachable. If they was not willing to be coachable and teachable, there's no room for that. That's a prerequisite. You got to be willing to learn. If you're trying to tell me, oh, I got this experience, and I say, all right, show me the last 90 day CTRs, you can't. But you got all this experience. Makes no sense to me. But people do it all the time. Then what ends up happening when you get this person who was unqualified in the public with a college degree, all in the public, then you hit them with this information, it scares the bejesus out of them. Now they're finna tell you why they ain't finna do what you hired them to do. And now I gotta be the bad guy and be like, yeah, and I'm like, look, I told you this buffoon was not the one you needed. There's plenty of other people you can find that's willing to learn, that want to be compensated to learn. I'll give you this, and then we're going to jump off. Look, set up Keyman Insurance so you can use that Keyman Insurance as an incentive packet to hire these realtors and so forth, and your qualified individuals. You can actually contract these individuals with all these licenses and all these smarts that's in the public through insurance. Say, look, I have an insurance policy that if you provide this service, make a claim, you can be compensated. But I digress. I don't say it too much. I don't want to take your whole Sunday. I meant Saturday, excuse me. I appreciate everybody's time and energy. And with that, I'm going to say peace and love, family. Peace and love.
Peace and love. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.